Hello again, Facebook. I know you just saw me a half hour ago during our Health and Wellness Food is Medicine segment, but I am very excited, more than I can explain, to do this interview, more than any interview I've done, I'm not kidding when I say this, in the last 5 years. And I'm going to very humbly say I encourage all of you to not only watch this, but please share it on your timeline, because the story that you're going to hear, and you're only going to hear a piece of it today, is so intriguing that you're going to want to follow this young man, and more importantly, learn more about his story. And I'm going to give you a little bit of back history right now, because I want you to understand just how blessed I feel that I've gotten the chance to meet you. And I'm going to share with people just how random the meeting was. We're down here in Southwest Florida. David is traveling. How long have you been on this journey? I want to say since August or September?
Yep, since August. Yeah,
and it began in
Indonesia.
In Indonesia in August. We're in Southwest Florida. You're not even done because you're leaving here tomorrow to go to
Key Largo for diving.
Because he's a scuba diver. And then to Germany. So I'm not sure when I'm going to see him again. But we met about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If you know me, there's only one place you'll ever meet me, and that's in the gym, because I'm there when I'm not working. And David and I got the chance to meet. We kind of interacted a little bit the first couple of times, but after enough conversations, we realized that there was a lot of synergies, and we began to talk. And the more I learned about his story, the more I was trying to coax him to share it. And the neat thing is, he's probably one of the most humble people I've ever met, and yet at the same time, most courageous and has the most amazing story. So I share all that with you to say, I'm lucky that in that short little, how long have you been in Southwest Florida?
Just about 3 weeks.
So just about 3 weeks, and I've known him for probably two and a half of those weeks. We've gotten a chance to, I consider him someone that I have tremendous respect for, and a friend, and I hope a lifelong friend, because he's really one of those people that's genuine, and you don't get to meet a whole lot of the folks out there anymore that come from their heart and really mean what they say and are sincere. So, why are you listening right now? Why am I so excited to share this with you? I'm going to give you a little bit, and then I'm going to invite you to fill in the blanks and make any corrections should I mess this up. But what I want you to understand is that this is a journey that at 48 years old has been going on for over 30 years. And we're going to talk today about one story that began back when David was 10. But here he is today, sitting here in Southwest Florida, having mastered 3 languages, which I say the first one being English, because I know too many people that don't even speak English well, but 3 languages, has visited 50 countries?
50 countries.
50 countries, and most recently has spent the last 3.5, almost 4 years in Indonesia. But here's the cool part of this, and then I'm going to let him fill in the blanks. Went from homeless at age 18? 24, homeless, to a foreign diplomat in Indonesia within 20 years. So I throw this out there to say, for those of you complaining, for those of you making excuses, of which I've been that person at times, so I'm not criticizing, you're going to hear from somebody who does not understand the word obstacle, does not understand the concept of impossible, and has really gone out there and done some amazing things through his own resilience, perseverance, and ingenuity. And before we tell the really cool story that I just absolutely love, anything that you'd like to share, because I want this to be David's show, and there's a tremendous story that I hope will be rolled out over the next couple of weeks to couple of months, but I want you to decide how much we're going to share today and where the direction goes. But I just want to say thank you for being willing to share your story with these amazing people that need to hear from you and this inspirational adventure that you've been on.
Well, I think, first of all, thank you. It's a tremendous honor. for much of my life, I've never thought of myself as having a tremendous story. In more recent years, it's been about embracing myself. As I mentioned to you, it's owning who I am in a way that really lets me sit inside of this body and really enjoy this ride and really know who I am and use that. And I think one of the most emotional things about this today for me is I've always dreamed of having my story be useful in some way, be impactful, to give it away as something for all of us, because we are connected. We are part of a global community, the world around us, and the more I journey, the more I'm connected. And so sharing that story is really, really a tremendous opportunity. I thank you for that.
It is my pleasure, and I want to be clear about this. There are so many people out there that have the titles of life coach and all these different things, which no disrespect to any of them. But when we started talking, I'm looking at you going, this is exactly what so many people are trying to manufacture with certifications and courses and try to find a way to tell a story that has an impact. You've lived this story without that goal, without chasing money, without trying to get certified, without whatever. You're living and embodying what most people have not yet awakened to. This is what it's all about. And I'm serious when I say this. I've never met somebody who's inspired me more with his own life's journey, awareness, enlightenment. I mean, we could talk for days about some of the things that we've touched on in our brief conversations. But I want people to understand this is an individual that I look forward to learning from and following as he continues his journey around the globe. And I'm inviting you guys to understand the impact now before it becomes a major motion picture or a book, because I promise you, this young man will actually, no, I'm serious, there's not a doubt in my mind that this story will get out there at some point, not because you're trying to make a movie out of it, but because you're going to come across the person who says, I'm going to make a movie out of your story.
Okay.
So, absolutely, enjoy today's story. So you tell me, my friend. I know what story I can't wait to hear, but I don't know if there's anything you want to share to set it up.
No, we can go ahead. We can hit that. How would you want to start that?
Well, I'm going to set it up for you then, because
Okay, cool.
I want people to understand the impact. So
Let's go.
you were 10 years old.
Yeah.
So 10 years old for him puts us pre-internet, just like me.
1980.
There you go, 1980. So the story would be cool if it happened today.
Yeah.
Having the internet, it would still be powerful. But David, at the age of 10 back in 1980, had a unique situation occur. Your grandfather and grandmother liked to travel.
Yeah.
And his grandfather passed away, and his grandmother said a whole bunch of stuff, but one of the things that hit him was that she was sad that she wasn't going to have her travel partner anymore to take these awesome vacations with.
That's right.
And as any awesome little grandson would do, he said, I'll travel with you. But the neat thing was, it was expensive. It wasn't like she was saying, hey, I can pay for it.
That's right.
And the trip she was taking wasn't just a short little trip down to Florida. It was
To Europe.
to Europe.
Yeah.
And do you remember the total cost of that trip?
It's $3,000.
$3,000. So you're 10 years old, and you're now volunteering to take a trip to Europe that's going to cost $3,000, and you don't have the money. Your grandmother didn't have the money.
No.
And your parents weren't offering to pay for it.
No.
So, while it sounds like an amazing offer from a loving grandson, here's what happened. David, at 10 years old, said, I'm going to make good on this promise. I'm going to follow through, and I'm going to go ahead and use my ingenuity to earn $3,000 at the age of 10. Now, I'm going to stop there because the story is cool, but ask yourself, at your age right now, with financial challenges, whatever, how many people do you know that look for excuses and reasons not to get something accomplished, not to enjoy something, not to whatever, simply because you didn't put in either the effort or you weren't creative enough to find a way? Because after this story, you're never going to be able to say to me, oh, I don't know how I would, because at 10 years old in 1980, without Google, without the internet, without a skill set, because you were 10, he managed to earn $3,000 and go on the trip. Now I'm going to shut up. David, please share this story because it is the coolest story in the world.
John, I don't. Well, you know, I was thinking earlier today when, about this in preparation for this. I thought, do you remember those encyclopedias that you used to get? Like, you know, I remember for us as a family, it was you'd go to Publix, and every time you buy like a certain amount of groceries, you'd get like the next volume of the encyclopedia.
Yes.
And I was always so excited about these encyclopedias. I flipped through them endlessly, and of course, you know, for any book reports you did at school, that was like your source.
That was the go-to.
That was your go-to.
There was no
your source
Google.
material. In the reference section, every teacher was bound to see Funk and Wagnalls or Encyclopedia Britannica right there.
How did we not all write the same reports since we had the same resource? And
Exactly.
That was the only
I have no
resource?
idea. I have no idea. But that was the resource back then. Well, I remember, you know, looking through a big trunk that had like a bunch of stuff that I had collected from my childhood, and I ran across this report. It was 4th grade, and it was on Switzerland. And that was our assignment, like to do a report on some country of the world. So I had chosen Switzerland. And this plays into the story because in the course of doing this report, like everything that I read about Switzerland had just really grabbed my attention about Europe. And so it was just clear to me that I was going to Europe at some point in my life, and I just wanted to go there. We had another set of encyclopedias, and I've looked for it since that time, and I can't find an example of it, but I think it was called something like People's Places and Cultures. And I used to love this encyclopedia set also because it was specifically about cultures, and I would trace the costumes that they showed, and there was these people from Switzerland and Germany and Yugoslavia at the time. Well, so fast forward, and my grandmother, sitting there in the living room, she was crying, and you know, and she says, I have this upcoming trip that I'm really interested in taking, and this trip is going to Central Europe. It was going to go to Germany, Austria, Switzerland, and Yugoslavia. Now remember, in 1980, Yugoslavia was still Yugoslavia.
Right.
And I was hooked. Because I thought back to these tracings I had done and this book report I had done, and so this was the deal. And I think this is a very important moment in this whole story for me, because it had nothing to do with the money, actually. The money was irrelevant to me. The money later just became a big question of how. Because what was clear in my mind was that going to Europe, to these countries with my grandmother, was a foregone conclusion. This was heaven on earth for this 10-year-old little boy. And so I was willing to say yes. I had no qualms with that. I was going to answer the question of how at a much later date.
You didn't worry about how. You were just like, I'm doing this
I'm
no
just
matter
doing
what.
it. And I mean, immediately I could see myself there. I could see my grandmother beside me. I could see airplanes. I could see buses. I could see all these images I had seen in the encyclopedia. And so that was just super important to me. And my parents actually laughed at the moment when I said that. And I think that was just because I had 3 younger siblings, and you know, they were not. We were not a wealthy family. I'd say we're middle, low income family at the time, and they were struggling to get by. And of course, they didn't really have $3,000 lying around to send their oldest son to Europe with grandma. And so I said, well, I'm going to do it. And I proceeded to wander around my neighborhood and tell everybody in the neighborhood, door by door, that I was going to Europe and I needed to earn some money. And I asked them how it was that I could, or what jobs there were that I could do for them that would that they'd pay me for. And so by age 11, I was mowing 6 yards a week. I had several small children for piano students. I had been playing the piano since I was 5.
I didn't even talk about this because this plays into it. What age did you begin taking classical piano?
5.
I think I was still eating Play-Doh at 5. So that's what we're looking at here. Classical piano, eating Play-Doh.
Yeah.
And you then were resourceful enough to say, what skills do I have at 10 and 11?
Yeah.
So back to his story, but that's how resourceful he was, that he was like, what can I do at this age? Not what can I do, but what can I do? And so mowing lawns,
teaching piano, and babysitting. I did a lot of babysitting. I can't say that at age 10 or 11 I was thrilled with babysitting. You know, now I look back and I think, oh my God, like, you know, what family was letting an 11-year-old?
They were just like, I'm really care about my kids. We just need to get out for a night. Let David watch them.
But you know, I think that in all honesty, I think that the reason that they did is they lived next door for one, and so they knew that my parents were right there.
Right.
You know, I had assured them that my parents were right there. They had talked to my parents, and so I think that sort of lent a sense of stability or security to my babysitting abilities.
I love it.
And of course, I you know, I had to grow into many of these skill sets. I mean, I had been mowing my own family's yard, so that was easy enough. I think I mentioned to you the story of landscaping yards.
That's my favorite one. I want you to save that for the last piece because that blows me away, and I think people will absolutely get why I got so excited.
Yeah,
that's huge.
That is huge. That is huge. Well, I'll just hit that one right now. How's that?
Go right ahead.
Also, next door neighbors, they had sort of boring plants in their backyard around their swimming pool, and they had a problem tree out front. It was an orange tree that was rotting and dying, and there were some, you know, boring plants along the front there. And I said, well, you know, I mean, I loved plants. I'd seen my parents plant plants, and I was like, well, I can landscape your yard.
At 11, like 11, I'm gonna landscape your yard.
My big thing at the time, like I lived in northern Tampa, and like far out, like on like Ehrlich Road. Now, people who live there now feel like that's not far out, David, right? That is well within the city limits. But at that time, I mean, it was pretty far out there, and so there was all these developments around, and so I really loved going with my parents on weekends to tour all of the model homes. And the thing that fascinated me about the model homes was they always had these diagrams, right? And so, like, it was like the layout of the home, and then all the plants out front. And I would go and walk and like see these beautiful plants around these, you know, lanais and swimming pools here in Florida. And I just loved that. I just liked it. And so I thought, I can draw a drawing like that. I mean, that seemed like what landscaping was, right? And so I was like, I'll landscape your yard. And so they're like, okay. And so, you know, kind of then came the oh shit moment where I
gotta do it.
Oh my God, I gotta do this. And so, so I went with my mom. She was picking up some like bricks of mulch or something like that, and I went to a local landscaper, and I went to them, and I had taken a drawing of the next door neighbor's yard, and I said,
that's another coup. You had some skills as an artist.
Barely, but yeah.
But you actually did a diagram
Yeah.
of the neighbor's house
Yeah.
to take with you. I'm correcting to make sure that you don't skip anything, because I'm telling you, the story, when people piece this together, they're going to say, how'd this kid do this?
Yeah.
But so you did a diagram of their yard,
Yep.
because that was within your skill set, as I can
Yep.
draw this
I
out.
can draw this out.
And then went to the landscaper and said to the landscaper,
I told these people in my neighborhood that I was going to landscape their yard, and I don't really know how to do that. And here's the drawing. What do I need to do? And so it sort of became a negotiation. I mean, I think he was pretty impressed that I was able to do that.
how do you not be impressed with a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid who you know has no skills,
Right.
who says, I'm going to landscape my neighbor's yard? How do we negotiate
How do we do that?
to make this happen? He had that, seriously, that had to be an aha moment for him, like, I'm helping this kid get it done.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of, again, that resilience, ingenuity of, this kid's going to go somewhere in life.
Yeah.
Which you have, but we're not telling him all that yet. So back to, again, he negotiates with a landscaping company, manager, whatever, to help a kid figure out, how do I landscape my
How to
neighbor's?
landscape the yard.
So, again, please.
So, you know, we discussed some options, and we wandered around and looked at plants, and you know, we talked about how to plant them and what kind of things we need to purchase, and we got a list together. And then I went back to the neighbors, and I said, well, this is the deal. This is how much it's going to cost for the plants, and you know, we can have it delivered. I mean, I'm a 11-year-old boy by this time.
On your bicycle?
I'm not going to deliver the plants for them. So yeah, we negotiated all that, and I did the transfer of money. I mean, I took money from the neighbors and took it to the landscape place and made the arrangements, gave them the address, and then they came and delivered plants to my neighbors, and I got my butt over there. And I mean, it took me a while. You know, a lot of this. The other thing that I think about is these people were really tolerant of me, and I am really blessed that occurred as well, because it's not like landscaping companies today, they come in with a team of like 10 or 20 guys
Right.
and
Done in 3 days.
yeah, they got it done. I mean, this took me forever. And I had to remove an orange tree. And I had to remove an orange tree with whatever tools I had in my dad's garage. And so I'm back there digging a hole like the size of Jupiter and shaking and shaking and shaking this orange tree. But I get that thing out of the ground. I chop it up and get it out there for the guys to take away from the trash guys. And then I proceed to landscape their yard.
But think about that again.
Yeah.
How many people, because you've experienced a lot in life, how many people literally say, can't do that?
Yeah, it's true.
I don't know how to do that, so I can't do that. Instead of, I don't know how to do that, but let me find out, or let me find someone who does and get their help.
That's right.
That's why this story, as much as you're humble about it, I'm like, dude, you're crazy. I know too many people as adults that look for reasons to not do stuff and look for the smallest little obstacle to stop them and say, I can't do it, can't do it, can't this, can't that. You were a kid, and I think that's the cool thing about it is somehow that gets robbed of us as that childhood innocence that we can do anything, but you embodied it. So again, removed an orange tree, not a little plant, an orange tree as a kid with probably a little shovel, a hammer, a little saw. I don't know what you had, but you
I had an
certainly
old
did not
rusty
have a
saw.
I'm sure
I
it
was
wasn't
like,
a chainsaw.
I was out there doing it.
God bless you. So the orange tree is removed,
Yeah.
and now you're going to landscape their property.
Yeah.
How long did it take?
I'd say probably about 2 weeks. 2 weeks of getting out there and doing that.
2 weeks every day,
Yeah, just a little bit a day.
busting his tail. But how did it end up?
It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And they were happy. They were very happy.
So now, cutting lawns, babysitting, teaching piano lessons, landscaping. Anything else that contributed to this? That you can think of?
Actually, I did have one other thing that contributed to this, and that is my dad had actually convinced me as a much younger person, younger than 10, right, to take, they were giving me like 50 cents at one point of an allowance. And the idea was to teach me about savings. And who knows how much I came out with, but I probably came out with like $15. And he had convinced me to put this into a tax certificate, which is, I think, an investment tool that's no longer used.
That's how old we are.
And it came to fruition about 10 or 11 years old, and that contributed a couple $100 to my overall. And so that was kind of a little bit of a boost, and that always kind of stuck in my mind as something my dad did nicely for me, like really early on. He himself never was a very good saver later on, but his head was in the right place, and he tried to pass that information on to me, and actually it paid off for me in that sense. And so
That's cool.
I think that was kind of a cool lesson as well.
Okay, so here we are. You're 12 years old now.
Yeah.
Odd jobs for a couple of years.
Well, just over a year actually.
Just over a year.
Yeah.
And you earned the $3,000.
Earned the $3,000. Yeah.
And you'd think that would be the end of the story. But you then presented the success to your grandmother. And again, I'm going to shut up and let you share, because the layers on this story were just so amazing.
Well, this part of it I recently revisited, and it was very moving to revisit it. I think at this sort of stage of my life, and we got on the airplane, and this was like a, for lack of a better word, an old people's tour. And
Considering where we live, it would be appropriate.
Yeah, it was like this. So I was a 12-year-old boy, easily. And well, in fact, I know the age of the next oldest person. Her name was Barbara, and she was 36 years old. She was the granddaughter of the oldest person on the trip, who was 93 years old.
Oh my gosh.
And so she also was a grandchild on the trip. So anyway, so that's the scene. We got on the airplane, and my grandmother sits down, and she says, and she pulls out, she was very purposeful in everything she did. She was such an elegant lady, and class act all of her own. And she pulls out of her giant purse a pad and a pen, and she says, David, you've done an amazing thing here, earning this $3,000 to go on this trip. She says, but you haven't earned enough. And so she writes down on this piece of paper, she says, first of all, there's 2 excursions that are on this trip. And she said, I understand why you didn't earn that money, because you were, shooting high to get to the minimum. She says, but I think it would be useful for you, and so I'm going to pay for those 2 excursions for you. And then she pulls out a camera, and she says, you need to take pictures of your trip. And she says, and she hands me the instruction booklet also, by the way.
Oh, how funny.
Because she doesn't know how to use the camera herself. She says, so we have several hours in those planes, you get to read this, you get to read the instruction booklet and figure the camera out. Which I was like, that's no problem, I just raised $3,000, I think I can figure out a camera. So I did read the instruction booklet. I can't say that I did a superior job of taking pictures, but she said that she was going to pay for all the film, and she would pay for all the development of the photographs, which back then was actually a significant sum of money. It wasn't like these digital cameras today. And I'm very glad she did. I have some pictures from that time. And the final piece, where she says, as though you did this, you worked hard and you did this for yourself, you should never forget those that you love and that support you and encourage you along the way. And so she says, so along the way, we're going to buy gifts for those people. And she also wanted me to buy little tchotchkes for myself, which I still have today. I was hoping I could pull the pictures up of some of those before you came in, but I didn't get a chance. And so she documented all this on this piece of paper. And by the end of the trip, that amount came to $1,060. And so Louise, being a very judicious woman, she wanted to give that to all of her other grandchildren. And she told me that. She says, I'm going to give $1,060 to all of my grandchildren on their 12th birthday, in honor of this of this moment. And I thought long and hard about that over the years. I was more than happy for her to do that. But I thought, I actually gained more than $1,060 worth of value out of that conversation, because it wasn't about the tchotchkes, which I bought, and my mother has a Hummel that I bought her. I saw her this week, and she reminded me that she has that. And it was to remember those that are in my life. I think today about the teachers that I told at school and how they helped cue me in. My parents weren't travelers, and so they didn't know anything. And so they cued me in about things like, did you get a passport? Do you know that you have to go to the post office to get that? Do you have to turn in an application? Do you have luggage? I mean, I knew, have you checked into vaccinations?
Like I'm 10.
I'm like, I had no clue. And so, it really took a village, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And the real credit to me is that I engaged the village.
The village was inspired by the passion of the little boy who said, I can do anything.
That's right.
That's the cool thing. That's who you are. That's the lighthouse that you are for anybody that's in the dark, in the fog, saying, how do I get there?
Yeah.
You've been that lighthouse.
Yeah,
At
true.
10, 11, 12 is where it began. Which is why this story of David now at 48, like I said, you're going to want to tune in any and every time, but it began at that point. So you got to go on the trip and enjoy it, but how many cousins were benefiting unknowingly because of what you did and the hard work that you put in and the enjoyment that you and your grandmother had? How many other people benefited without doing anything or even knowing why? It was just this gift created by your passion.
It was six other grandchildren of hers.
How cool is that?
It's very cool.
That is, like you said, it's a priceless, precious lesson to see how doing good can just keep a ripple effect of helping others when you're not chasing money or doing things for just personal gain.
That's right.
Because that's the coolest thing, is you wanted to be a part of that with your grandmother.
That's right.
And all of a sudden, but I love the concept of, the whole village got involved, got engaged, and said, we're gonna do our little part to make sure this crazy kid actually gets there. Because imagine that, like, passport, how would you even know to go get one?
Yeah.
There's adults that don't understand they have to have a passport when they leave the country.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So, any other anecdotes to that story that you'd like to share? Because I love it, and I hope people, like, I know there's a lot of folks commenting, great story, hi John and David, so please continue. There's a lot of folks enjoying this.
I think one in particular, I think that for me, it didn't really sink in what I had done until I landed in Germany. And because, I was just in the mode of like, oh my God, I gotta do this, I gotta do this because, I wasn't gonna like create all this expectation inside myself and then not accomplish this.
Right.
I mean, my goodness, that was like not even on my radar. Like failure was not an option here. And so I was just like in the moment. And so it never really sunk in until later that, oh my God, I really did this. And so I landed in Germany, and we were late, the plane was late, and on the agenda was to go and see the Glockenspiel in the Munich Plaza. And so we got on the bus, we rushed there, everybody jumps out of the bus, we get in place, and then boom, the Glockenspiel plays at, I think it was 4:30. I can't remember, but that was the moment where it sank in, because I looked all around me, and then there was a leader of the program, a woman, and she had jumped up on a wall here nearby, and she had a camera, and she was taking pictures, big elaborate camera, and I looked over at her and I said, "Can you help me learn about my camera?" And she says, "I sure can later." She looked at me and she says, "You sure are a privileged little boy. Do you know where you're standing?" And I said, "I sure do. I'm standing in Munich, Germany." And that was the moment that it sunk in. I go to Munich fairly often, and in my mind's eye, I photographed the squares on the ground where my feet stood, and I go to visit those squares every time.
That's cool.
And for me, it's a tribute in my heart to the sort of innocence and joy that I had with just pursuing a dream that just crept into my mind, and I just did it.
It's amazing.
So,
like I said, to set the stage and to help you understand the impact, that would be an amazing story if someone did it today with all the resources available, whether it be internet and Googling the information or the many different ways to earn money.
Yeah.
It'd be impressive for a teenager to do that today.
Yeah.
But for you to have done that back, seriously, in 1980, it's beyond my comprehension, but it speaks to who you are, because you're like, of course I did it.
Yeah.
There wasn't an option. There was no other alternative. So that sets the stage. Now, there's so many other things that we've touched on and discussed. Can we, just for the fun of it, share a little bit about your incredible appetite for learning and reading?
okay.
Because again, I want people to really grasp this, because I may not get a chance to see you in person again for a while, and as much as you want, I will help get this story out there, because I want people to really understand. If they're looking for inspiration, if they're looking for some way to get past their own limitations, everything about you has been breaking through barriers and no limits.
Yeah.
And to live a life with no limits is the goal. To live a life of anything and everything is possible if I believe in me. That's who you are. And there's so many people struggling. And I've been a trainer, a personal growth, leadership development trainer. And I can teach stuff, but my story pales in comparison to yours, which is why I'm saying to you, this is not false praise. This is not me just going, hey, I want to promote this. This is me saying, you really have a tremendous story that you have lived that is going to inspire millions and millions of people when they actually hear it and embrace it, rather than dismiss it as, nobody can do that. Because that's the easy answer. Nobody can do that, because they can't do it.
Yeah.
Rather than say, I can do anything. If that kid could do that, and this young man could do this, and this guy can do this, I can do anything. So just to kind of set the stage, I consider myself fairly intelligent and fairly educated, and I read what I have to read. I read in school what they forced me to read, and other than maybe a Sports Illustrated, not much more. As opposed to you, at what age?
I'm definitely not reading Sports Illustrated.
Correct, but you actually got caught into some really cool stuff that expanded as we tell the story. Your first real introduction to the love of reading was
The Hardy Boys.
The Hardy Boys, and it was not a punishment. It was kind of like a diversion. You said your parents were like, "This kid's got too much energy. We got to find a way to distract them." So they bought you, what, 20 books, you said?
Yeah, it's probably said like 20, 30 books. And really they wanted me to go take a nap in the summertime and
Right.
to just kind of get me out. And I really wasn't having it because I wasn't interested in sleeping.
Yeah, you're not the I'm going to go take a nap child at this point.
No,
There's
I'm
no
not.
question.
And so they, at some sort of, I guess it was a garage sale or something, they ran across 20 to 30 Hardy Boys books, and so they bought them all, and off I went, and they said, well, you're going to have to sit down and read one of these books. There's a little bit of a, you gotta read a book, David. I'm like, okay. Well, I started reading those books, and I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that by the time, this had all been said and done, I think that there had been like about 120 of these Hardy Boys books written, and I read all of them.
Wow.
I moved on to Nancy Drew. I'll have to tell you that riding the school bus, reading Nancy Drew as a guy is pretty challenging. I was called all kinds of names. I am gay, and so I was beginning to deal with that, and that brought a little bit of shame on. But you know what? I didn't care. I was just going to plow right on.
You're out of Hardy Boys. It was time to read Nancy Drew.
Time to read Nancy Drew.
There you go.
And there was a 3 investigator series by under the Alfred Hitchcock title. Well, there was a young Filipino American woman at school that I also rode the bus with, Catherine, and she and I like to taunt each other because we had very similar grades. We were grade competitive.
Little friendly competition
Yeah,
between two very intelligent children.
And I was like, well, I think I read more books than you. And she's like, no, I think, that whole kid thing. And I said, well, I quickly calculated how many books I'd been reading in the last several weeks. And I said, well, I can read 3 books a week times 52 weeks. That's 156 books. I bet you I can read 156 books in a year before you. And so she says, deal, on. And so
6th grade.
6th grade. Lockhart Elementary School in Tampa,
6th
Florida.
grade.
And now, in fairness to both of us, we had about a 45-minute to an hour-long bus ride.
Okay.
So we had a amount of time there that we could do it. And
you also had a deal so that nobody could cheat or read
That's
like a
right.
short
That's
book.
right.
So that's to make this.
yeah, so we said, we can do the drop test, right? Like you can grab a book, that the
At
other
any
person
time.
is at any time the other person's reading. Maybe read a segment unless we've already read the book, and we can quiz the other person on what's going on in that sort of section to convince us until we're sort of personally satisfied that the other person is not cheating and
They're actually reading.
just flipping through pages.
And they couldn't be short books either.
They could be short. Had 200 pages was the minimum. And so off we went. And I sometimes wonder what the librarian there at Lockhart Elementary School was thinking, because she and I were just ripping books off the shelves to read. During that period, I read Jules Verne's Mysterious Island.
Let them know some of the books that you chose.
Which
out
is
of
a crazy long book. I also read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe. He's a little troublesome because it's either an anthology of short stories or I think that he's got like one longer story. I would have to read the entire anthology in order for it to be considered a book of 200 pages or more. Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit were in there. Those are also
Not easy books.
quite lengthy books. So these were serious books.
Yeah. Jules Verne.
David Copperfield.
Hitchcock.
I read David Copperfield during that time.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's another lengthy
That's
book.
a lengthy book.
So you chose to dive into some, like, when you begin to understand why his brain is so far advanced, it's because at this young age you were firing every neuron possible
Well.
in reading. No, I'm serious. Like I said, I'm guilty of it. I read what I have to. That's it. So you in the competition,
Yeah.
and
And we plowed on, and I think that we were on the bus on the last day, on the last few pages of our final book together at the same time.
Wow.
Because we were neck and neck the entire time. I think I won the competition by.
she's not here,
By
so
moments.
you absolutely we're gonna, unless she's watching this feed and would like to text in, no you did, which would be cool.
And I would love it if she would text in, because I would love to talk with her again. See how many books she's reading today.
I would say that'll be one of our goals in a later segment is we'll find her and we'll do a Facebook Live so you guys can compare. Absolutely.
But I do think it was amazing. It gave me an incredible love of literature. Out of a nostalgic memory of that, about I don't know 5 or so years ago, I looked up the Nobel laureates' top 100 books, list of top 100 pieces of world literature, and I started working on that list as well. I'd already read.
I was going to say some of the books were already on there.
But there was a number there was many that weren't, and so I read some of those. Camus' The Stranger I actually read more recently, and there was some John Steinbeck on there, and
Was that Of Mice and Men?
no, it wasn't Of Mice and Men. It was
East of Eden?
No, I'm having a hard time remembering which one it is.
I read those two. I just don't remember who was that wrote them. But I remember I read a Steinbeck.
And so, I've continued my love of literature. More recently, I read Ishigura's The Buried Giant, and I'm reminded I was reminded when I read that book of how much I just love literature. And, I know that a lot of people really get into like nonfiction works or sort of historical fiction, and I've read some of that, and that is interesting to me, but I just love the art of language and the beautiful art of telling a story.
Absolutely.
So
We all do, we just don't read. We watch TV and movies
that's
instead.
right, that's right.
So 156 books
In a year.
in a year, including some of the hardest books that you could read.
Yeah.
Again, in 6th grade.
Yeah.
So you're starting to understand now where the 10, 11, 12-year-old kid was so resourceful, so ingenious to manufacture, because that's what you did.
Yeah.
You manufactured $3,000
Yeah.
to go on this trip, to then, like I said, to me it would be punishment, you need to read all these books, but to develop, because that's what it was,
Yeah.
to develop the love of the books, which really is what separates you from everyone, that you have really developed such an intellect, a vocabulary, and a resourcefulness. Leads us to, and we don't have to tell the whole story, but let's give them at least a teaser. So you then go from 6th grade through high school and all, but where your story really begins to take root in some of the conversations that we've had, because we all go through our own challenges, trials. The constant is that life is going to happen to us, and sometimes it's, forget fair, it's just not even fun. It's painful. It's an experience that knocks us down and basically puts us on the ground and says, now what are you going to do? You went through that and ended up homeless, which is the reality of it. Like, this is not a magical story of rainbows and unicorns and some silver spoon that, mowed 3 lawns and they paid him $1,000 for each lawn and he got to go on this trip. You literally went through the ringer, but, and I'm going to let you tell the story, but went from homeless to, through the resilience and the resourcefulness and the ingenuity, found a way to work for a place to live, who then, once again, because of who you are, somebody recognized it and said, I'm gonna give this kid a chance, and you took it and turned it into a career, which then led you at age 31, to choose to go to college and pursue the degree in anthropology.
That's right.
So again, I'm letting him fill in all the blanks, but at 31, I'm not going to college. At 31, I'm finding something else to do because in my mind, I missed the boat on it. I'm 31 now, everybody else is 18.
Yeah.
So again, that speaks volumes. You don't see the limitations, the obstacles, the walls. You just see, this is what I want, and this is how I'm gonna go accomplish it.
Yeah.
After college, decided to pursue your advanced degree
In international affairs and economics.
International Affairs and Economics at George Washington,
That's right.
because he's now up in DC, which, again, however much we decide to tell is up to you, landed you a job in
The Department of Commerce.
Department of Commerce in our federal government under the Obama administration, correct?
Actually, I started under the Bush administration.
Under the Bush
Yeah.
administration,
Mhm.
but ended up getting your appointment
Yeah, that's right. Appointment to a diplomatic service.
to diplomatic service under the Obama administration, and ended up
In Indonesia.
in Indonesia. So, homeless to Indonesia in
20 some odd years.
20 plus years. So again, the whole point of this is not what's your excuse, but don't let anything be your excuse. Don't let anything be the reason why not. Find a reason why. Have a passionate reason why, and then just be resourceful, and ingenuity will find the way if it's fueled by passion. So I just want people to understand, that's what's so cool about David's story, is it's not the yellow brick road, it is a road through the jungle, which, by the way, he also does. He will decide, I'm gonna go like Mick Dundee from Crocodile Dundee. He's gonna go on a walk, because you were down in New Zealand.
Yeah.
You took pictures from the state park you're just at, and second picture was a crocodile. It looked like it was a 12-foot crocodile. He's in a little canoe. I'm like, that's just wrong all by itself. Don't be seeing crocodiles from a canoe. But feel free to share any bits, pieces, or anything else from that. But I want people to know that when we go live, there's a reason that I want to hear more about and be inspired by and learn from David Kincaid.
Well, thank you. Well, I think I'm going to save the how I became homeless story for another time. That's also I feel like that's a fairly dark chapter, both in ways that I was treated, but also in ways that I treated myself. And I think that's a powerful piece of this which is where I am today. And so I'll speak to the latter end of that.
Perfect.
Of that storyline. How's that?
Perfect.
You know, I graduated from George Washington University at I think it was age 38, I guess it was, with a degree in international affairs and economics. I had a degree in anthropology, which I completed with honors. And you know, I think this is as a 30-year-old student, 30-year-old plus student. I worked all the way through, full time, and during my graduate degree, I worked full time and went to school full time. I also was heavy at the time. I had gained an incredible amount of weight. By the time I was 31, I was 250 pounds, and I was going to go in for a job interview. I went to Hecht's department store back then up in Virginia, and I tried on a size 42 pair of pants.
Wow.
And in a major fit, I threw this pair of pants down on the ground. I stormed out of there, went home, and I called up Jenny Craig, and I ended up doing the Jenny Craig diet, which really helped to shift my thinking. But what I bring this up because you can see this whole of life. So I kind of went. It was like Alice in Wonderland, right? I sort of I just fell in a hole.
Right.
And these terrible things happened, and then there's some bizarre, the world suddenly looked very bizarre, and I went in directions that nobody could ever predict that I was going to go in, and I worked as a bartender. I went door to door selling fire alarms at one point in time. I worked at Kinko's Corporation for many, many years.
That was actually a part of the springboard.
That was part of the springboard.
That you can tie in at some point. But
yeah, Kinko's was super successful for me actually, as an individual. So I've done some crazy. I became a nutrition counselor at Jenny Craig actually for a while.
Nice.
So I coached other heavy people through their diet. So I've had all these like different experiences, but nobody would have. This was not predictable. But it was all like I think a lot of thrashing about and just kind of grabbing at anything that I could for survivability. And once I decided that I was going to go back to school, I really started to get focused. I remember I sold my Jeep at one point in time. I had this like old piece of crap Jeep that barely ran. That was my mobility there in Virginia. I sold it and I bought a bicycle and I started just bicycling everywhere. That's how I got fit. I celebrated my loss of weight with a sprint triathlon because I just wanted to get to continuously remind myself, this is about me. I get to do this. Like I am responsible for my fitness, my nutrition, for my state of being, so that anyone out there, they can act on me any way they want, right? They can oppress me however they want, they can mistreat me any way they want, but at the end of the day, I need to remind myself that like I cannot mistreat myself. And I have done plenty of mistreating myself.
As we all have. You're not alone there.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not alone there.
Our own worst enemy at some point, if not for too long.
And people often say that you're not alone there. In some respects, it doesn't really matter to me, because like on the one hand, it's terrific to know that I'm connected, right? So I'm connected in the sense that you mistreat yourself, this other person mistreats them, I mistreat myself, and so when we share in the camaraderie of that, like we can gain something by learning, oh wow, this isn't such an unusual problem. This is actually quite a normal problem. The part where I don't care about that is I'm not letting myself off the hook. I'm not going to let myself off the hook. It is indecent of me. It is immoral of me to mistreat myself, because this is a gift. This is the gift I have been given by the Creator. Whatever you or anyone believes about who or what that Creator is, this is a gift. And this is a spectacular adventure that we are on. And this is the body that I reside in. This is the soul that I am a steward of. And it is my obligation to take care of this. And I don't always do that. And so, I had a stellar career with the federal government. I landed straight out of my college degree. I applied for the Presidential Management Fellows program. I was a recipient of that award, which granted me 2 years of federal government service and an accelerated salary increase, which was terrific. The other thing it gave me is I worked on various projects in different parts of the government, and so I got like a really broad spectrum view. I landed in a promotion area for civil nuclear energy, and I traveled all over the world promoting U.S. civil nuclear energy technologies. I learned a lot about that and a lot about how other countries do that. So I just like learn. What I began to see through all of that, and then I became a diplomat. I applied for that. I got that job. I learned Bahasa Indonesia, which is the formal language of Indonesia. Got to Indonesia, spent 3.5 years there, and then boom, hit the wall. And when I hit that wall, I came to a real soul-searching, heart-stopping place where I came home one day, I lay on the floor, and I burst into tears, just sobbing. My partner of then 12 years, now 14 years, I was inconsolable. And what came of that was a realization that I had been pursuing this trajectory, this upward mobility trajectory, as a function of fixing this dark hole I'd fallen into. And I had done a stellar job. And, you know, and I am proud of the job that I did. And it was a necessary job, and I don't regret 1 minute of it. But that moment told me that there's a new moment. This is now a new moment in this an incredible journey, and this moment is the one where I get to own who I am. And I'm gonna walk away from this job. And I did. And I'm fortunate in many, many ways, which we could talk about. The least of which is my relationship to a husband who is also a diplomat, by the way. So I'm still connected.
He followed you over
Yeah, he
to
followed me,
Indonesia,
yeah.
so you guys got a chance to spend time there together.
That's right, that's right.
Prior to your decision to go on this
Yeah.
vision quest,
Yeah.
which I refer
So we
to
were there
as-
together for 2 years. We actually were a year apart because of the way that the onboarding process works.
I was gonna say, yeah, you got sent to Indonesia, he
First,
came,
yeah, a year later.
yeah, which is all by itself a challenge.
Yeah, that was a challenge. But so I'm still connected to that world. But these months of traveling have just really convinced me that I made exactly the right choice. Because I just really get that that world is not for me. And it is an excellent job, and there are some incredibly intelligent people who are doing that job. But it's just not for me. And this is the trick with us all, isn't it, right? It's who are we in this whole mix, and what are the skill sets that we have to bring to bear, and what is our journey in this? Like, what is our personal connection to this life, and to what is meaningful to us? And I really appreciate what you said in the beginning, which was that I'm not out there chasing money. I have worried about money a lot over the course of my life. I've actually declared bankruptcy in my life, and I've been homeless. So, I worry less and less about money every day.
It doesn't hold power over you anymore.
It doesn't hold power. And what I'm really after now is peace in my soul. I have a lot of peace in my soul, but I'm not where I would like to be. But I am in the sense that I am on that path, and I continue to wish to embrace who I am as a person, own this guy, this David, and to just love and cherish who he is. And I know that the more that I do that the more will emerge the gifts that I have to contribute to others, because my heart is with contributing to others. So
that's perfect. And it speaks to the person I met and have gotten to know over the past couple of weeks. So I thank you for sharing that. There's so much more to it, so many more pieces, and more importantly, so many more chapters to be written.
yeah.
But I'll sum up for me what you have embodied is the acknowledgement that there is more, and that for whatever reason I shared with you, I was on a trajectory to the age of 45, and I can't even say what you did, which is I came to the awareness I was broken in pieces to where what I was doing was no longer viable. I couldn't keep going down that path because it was removed from me. So I'm clearly not aware or bright enough to see it. It had to be, no, you need to go that way. You figured that out on your own and had the courage to walk away from what I think you would agree is a nice career and a nice life, and something that you had invested a lot of your time and energy into. So it's not like, oh, I'll try this for a little while. That was
I was
a
in.
career path, and you were
Yeah.
all in. To have the courage to say, it's not speaking to me, it's not fulfilling my passion, it's not fulfilling my core values, it's not fulfilling me enough to be content. But how many people live like that?
Yeah, it's true.
Forever, like just
It's true.
out of a fear of the unknown. Oh my gosh, how do I start? See, the cool thing is, how do I start over again? You went to college at 31. Like, I already said I wouldn't have. If I had gotten to 30 and didn't go to college, I'd be like, college is not my direction.
Yeah.
So you've embraced many different times. Something I've been trying to teach people forever is change is neither good or bad. Change is just required. Change is just constant. And the fear of the unknown is what paralyzes people instead of embracing, not accepting, but embracing the concept of stuff's going to change and it's going to happen the way I want it to. So I'm going to make it what I want it to. It's not good or bad, it's whatever I make it. You seem to have done that quite a few times, beginning with the story of the 10-year-old boy,
That's right.
to your decision, in August that it's time to trade in this career for, I don't know yet, but you've been on a pretty cool journey
I have.
that began in New Zealand. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. Australia,
Australia,
back to Indonesia,
back to Indonesia,
and then here to the U.S.
And then you started on the West Coast because I think.
I went Vancouver,
And-
Seattle, Portland, Salem, San Francisco.
How cool is that? But again, and you did it with a purpose because,
Yeah.
like you said, you're reconnecting with people
Yes,
throughout your life that you wanted to reconnect with, and
that's right.
and just, again, this could be a whole nother
Yeah.
10 episodes, but to reconnect with and to embrace and work through whatever was left the way it was, which by itself, again, the awareness of that, the acknowledgement of that, and then the courage to go do it, whereas most people lift the rug, sweep, ignore.
Yeah.
Or can't see it, don't
Yeah.
hear it, ignore. That's what makes your story so cool, and why I really hope that people are getting it, that are understanding this is not just some kid that cut lawns. This is not just some guy that, he was homeless and he got on his feet. That's fantastic. There's so many pieces to it. And I thank you so much because it's that right there, your willingness to step into the unknown, have no fear of change. Whether you have fear of fear, again, is irrelevant. You did it. For so many people allow themselves to be paralyzed by the fear or put themselves into a cage that they then say, well, I can't because of. I look forward to more conversations with you personally and the chance to have more people, again, be inspired by your story and to see how the next chapters unravel. Because like I said, you're leaving Florida. I personally am going to be bummed because I'm not going to hang out with you down at the pool or at the gym, but I will be the first person following you on whatever you're willing to put out there. And on a private level, we can talk on Messenger and whatever, wherever you go around the globe. So any parting thoughts? Because I don't want to keep you all night. I appreciate you being willing to share as much as you did already.
No, I'm just really, I'm really moved that you are so interested in my story, and I thank you very much. It's actually sometimes I think we need people in our lives to reflect back to us who we are.
There's no question.
And you're a light like that, so thank you.
I'm humbly saying thank you, but it's very easy because what you're doing is going to help millions of people. Anybody willing to say, I'm ready to hear, I'm ready to be, you are that story. And I mean it sincerely. I can't express enough how many people I don't endorse. I won't negatively talk about people, but won't endorse what they do because it is criminal. It's so fraudulent. And what you have done authentically and with tremendous humility and vulnerability is what people need to understand, to say, I can do anything. Anything I really want to do, I can do. There's nothing stopping me but my own fears and limiting beliefs. And you, my friend, like I said, I've already told him this. One of my favorite movies is Rudy. Rudy Rudiger, the kid that played football at Notre Dame. I can't wait till your story is told in book and on movie, and I'll be on set going, yes. I just hope I'm not 89 years old when it happens. We'll be two old men with canes or whatever. So thank you so much, my friend, for being willing to share with everybody out here. And I hope all of you enjoy and comment. David is linked in this, so feel free to connect with him, but I will be communicating his story as much as I am able to through Facebook Lives. So until next time, God bless, be safe, enjoy the rest of your Sunday night.